Hi, I'm Iliana Limon-Romero here with Alicia DelGallo, ready to take Orlando City Soccer. We were so excited to be live online talking with you all about all things soccer in Orlando. It's been a pretty big weekend. Lions, Pride, OCB. Do we call them Lions too? I feel like...
Yeah, I think they're all Lions.
Okay, so Lions and Pride all together. Yeah. A big weekend. Takeaways from the weekend, 9 points. That is a pretty good haul for this soccer club.
Yeah, very good. All three teams win. Huge momentum boost for everybody, especially Orlando City, who broke out of a 6-game winless streak. But they have to turn it right back around because they play on Wednesday, so they're looking to carry that momentum into Wednesday night's game against Philadelphia.
Yeah, really huge opportunities for all the teams, and as you mentioned, big momentum boost, but it only counts if you're able to carry it forward. And I think that has inspired an awful lot of reader questions. Yeah. So as a reminder, you can always join us and tweet at OS Lions with any questions that you've got, even throughout the show. We're going to start from the top from some people who have already reached out to us. We really appreciate the questions and roll on from there. So first up, Trey Hellwig, at Trey Hellwig, at OS Lions. The FO, front office, would consider a successful season on and off the field for the Pride by achieving what?
So the goal, there were never any big promises made like there were with Orlando City about making the playoffs and winning a championship right off the bat. But for the Pride, a successful season would be making the playoffs. They want to be in the top 4 of the league by the end of the year. But I think it won't be a huge disappointment if they don't make that top 4, but that's the aim.
Yeah, it's a smaller field. It's a bigger challenge. It's very different than what you have on the men's side, where you have essentially 12 teams, 6 in each conference that can go to the playoffs. Right. That was a very different goal, but I think they have performed well so far and performed to the point that playoffs may not have been on the table before, but I think they would be a tad bit disappointed if they weren't able to carry and punch that through.
Yeah, I think they're performing even at a higher level and more competitively sooner than Coach Tom Sermanni expected, because he was expecting it to take a little bit longer to come together as a new team and figure out the league and each other, and they seem to be well on their way to doing that.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily like an indictment of the club if they don't make that goal. It's a hard one. There's only 4 teams. Yeah. There's a lot of talent there. You're going to go through some different call-ups and different changes during the Olympics and various challenges. It's not the end of the world, but you got a taste of something now that I think they're hopeful. All right, so we've got another question. Trey Hellwig again, at Trey Hellwig. Thanks for asking us questions. Do Serv and Rivas earn the start after their performances? So Servando Carrasco and Carlos Rivas performed pretty well against Montreal, 2-1 win. Do they earn the start again, in your opinion?
Servando, my opinion, 100% will start again. Partly because of his performance, partly out of necessity because Darwin is still injured. And Carlos, I think he performed admirably, but I think there's a little more wiggle room in that area. So it might be, especially because they have so many games this week, 3 in a week, it'll be tough. They might save him to come on for a spark. So I don't think it's necessarily guaranteed for Carlos, but for Servando, 100%.
Very interesting. The lineup questions are going to be interesting again this week, every week. I think that's a good thing, though. You have depth, you have opportunities. Yeah. It's a good chance to learn more about the team. So again, you can tweet at OS Lions if you've got any other questions, and here's some more that we've already gotten from OCST Blog, at OCST Blog. At OS Lions, with 3 games in 8 days going into the break, what omissions do you expect for Wednesday, not including Hines and Ramos injuries? So who do you think might not be in the mix for the starting spots?
I think that the way that they did it with, starting Carlos and benching Molino, saved Molino, I think maybe you could see a switch there for Wednesday or possibly for the next game on Sunday. But as far as the rest of the lineup, I don't really see too many omissions there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we're just waiting for live reader questions coming in. There you go. Yeah. Like to hear that buzz.
I don't see too many changes to the lineup for this week. Coach Adrian Heath said that it should look very similar to the team that was on the field at the end of the game last week.
And why not? I mean, you want that momentum. You want to keep playing that way. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Just out of curiosity, from training thus far this week, from what you've seen, anybody stand out as being pulled out of training, or is it still just the injuries that we'd expected?
Yeah, just the injuries that we've expected. They still have a defensive trialist from Stoke City there. And they had Haji Berry and Harrison Heath practicing with the MLS team today.
So more addition, less subtraction,
yep, exactly.
more options.
Yes.
All right. So familiar voice joining us, Kyle Meardo at Meards Beards.
We give him a shout out every week.
Meards Beards.
Meards Beards would not be a show without you. At OS Lions, was Molino benched on Sunday? One of the lineup changes, and what does the lineup look for Wednesday? Fresh, Molino, or Rivas? You've touched on the second part, but the first part was interesting.
Yeah.
What was the decision like? How did he end up on the bench for that game?
Adrian Heath just said he thought by the way the team played the previous week, they needed changes to the lineup. And unfortunately, Molino, he was not happy that he was part of those changes, but he was part of those changes. Adrian thought that Carlos and Adrian Vinter could really inject some energy in the game, especially Vinter, who all of you missed so much the past few games when he was on the bench. Adrian Heath recognized the energy that Vinter brings when he's in the game, and he wanted to get him in there, but it was at Molino's expense.
I mean, post-game, Adrian Heath did say, look, this was the dramatic change that he needed. So disappointed in the performance in Sporting Kansas City, not just because of the loss, not the result itself, but the way the team played, the lack of energy, the lack of finish, the lack of touch on anything. It was just total disappointment.
And it wasn't necessarily Molino's individual performance. I think he just switched up. As a whole, he wanted to switch up the team and the pieces and how they work together, and Molino just fell out of that formation that week. It wasn't anything specific to Molino, I don't think.
And I got to think that's motivation going forward for him to try to work his way back in. All right.
Ladies, we're also up on Facebook, I believe, so if you want to plug that.
Oh,
wonderful.
We're on Facebook Live now.
Yeah, we just started up on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us here as well. I'm with Alicia DelGallo, and we are answering reader questions about all things Orlando City, Orlando Pride, and OCB. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them on Facebook Live or send them on Twitter to @OSLions. We have a few questions that have already come in advance, so we'll start with the next one. Supporter City Colors at OS Lions. How did the ladies...
It's a new guy.
Yeah.
I've never seen this.
Yeah, SCC Alco. Thanks for the question. How do the ladies of Orlando Pride feel getting ready for the call-ups of so many players?
I think they feel really confident. I think they're confident in the team that they have. Of course, they're, not happy that they're missing their star players, but I don't think they feel like it's going to be a huge issue for them. They're calling up some amateur players that have been practicing with the team to fill in on the bench, and they're excited to get some of their other players more time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tom Termani has said, throughout the early part of the season that he has struggled, that it takes him and his staff days to figure out the lineup for each game. They try to put together the best tactical group that will really knock things down and give them the best chance against opponents, but feels really bad about the number of players who aren't even selected for the bench.
Yeah.
That's a challenge, and just the players who he can't get into the rotation. They have played everyone at this point, just about. One or two newcomers who haven't quite mixed in, but there's a lot of excitement, it seems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of buzz about what that opportunity means, and it'll be a challenge, no doubt. These are national team players who are very good for a reason, but the players are excited. And to be clear, the opponents that they're facing also run into the same issue. They also are dealing with the same call-ups. So there is some balance and some fairness to that, where you're running up against teams that are also going through the same thing.
Right.
All right.
Who's
so
next?
Next question, Nick Baggio. Let's see, NY 10115, I think, or is that?
No, that's an I.
I
or an L?
IO. Let us know, Nick. Let us know what it is.
IO515. I think it's IO5.
Sounds good.
Sure.
With 3 games in 8 days, will there be different lineups for both upcoming games? So, are you looking for a different look Wednesday against Philadelphia and then Sunday at NYCFC?
I think you can expect a little bit of a different look, mainly because there are options, like I said, up front with the attack, and also because just to fit with each team differently. And like he said, because there's so many games in such a short span, that they will want to get fresh legs. I think it's not going to be a huge change in formation or anything like that, but you might see a switch of, the starter and the sub coming off the bench.
Talk a lot about Philadelphia, but you've seen them at NYCFC. That's a narrow pitch, first of all, and the speed with which they play is a huge challenge. What was that last game like?
The NYCFC game was a win, if anyone didn't see it, it was a 1-0 win, but they were very lucky to have that 1-0 win. It was one of the uglier games of the season. NYC really, really pressured them around the net, so they need to prepare for that and be ready for that. So that's where you might see a little bit of lineup changes. But as far as the narrow pitch, they all told me last time it's not really as big an issue as people try to make it for them, the players on the field.
All right, very interesting. Again, we are on Facebook Live, and we're also still taking questions on Twitter at OS Lions. All right, so next up we have Adam Haas, Adam KH79. Adrian Heath has been staying positive about no Chirino publicly, but where is Heath really with him at this point? First 11th or a depth bench player?
I mean, I think that question was kind of answered in the last game. So yes, he's positive about no Chirino publicly. Yes, no Chirino does look good in training sessions, and he is making progress, but he was not happy with performances all around 2 weeks ago, and he made changes to the lineup, and one of those changes was no Chirino. So I think he pretty much answered that himself with the lineup this past game.
Now, there's a perception that coming over to MLS from playing previously in Europe, that's going to be something that you can slip into seamlessly, that there are no challenges aside from the travel, which is always a little bit different. It's much greater travel in the United States in MLS than there is in Europe. There's a learning curve for players.
Yeah.
What have you heard from players about maybe what Nocerino's going through, about how hard it is to maybe adapt to MLS and be ready, and maybe the final answer to this question isn't ready yet?
Yeah, Kaká told me, I talked to him briefly about what it was like for him coming over, and you're talking about one of the greatest players in the world, and he said it was really difficult for him. It was really hard to adapt. A lot of players have a mindset that they're going to come into MLS and it's going to be easier and they can play comfortably and succeed in this league, and that's not the case. And he really wants to get it through everyone's heads that when you come here, you need to be prepared, you need to work hard, you need to study, you need to train what the league is like. It's much more physical. And be prepared for that and not think that you can just come in playing, like I said, comfortable and succeed.
All right, so maybe a little soon to say, but for right now, it looks like he was not among the starting lineup, so that tells you a little about where he stands. All right, so we have a string of questions from Orlando City SC Brazil.
As usual. I'm
Hello.
sorry that we could not answer all of your 700 questions
Yeah,
today.
we have to preface this. We took the highlights. We appreciate all the questions, but at Blog Orlando City, thank you for the questions.
Yeah.
First up for the Pride, without Alex Morgan, our only player to score is gone. Who would step up? Team is going to have to play together.
Right, so I think that they're going to go with two up top without Morgan there, and I've heard rumblings that it would be Apple, Sarah Hagan, and Jasmine Spencer. But I don't think that she's the only one that scores. I think they've had a lot, five. They've had
scores.
5 different people score, so they have the options, they have the weapons, and I think the formation might just change a little bit.
Yeah, Tom Sermani spoke with a lot of confidence about what this team can do and the number of players. He said he would feel a burden if it really were only Alex Morgan and maybe one other player who had scored so far this season, just without any call-ups. You want to not put that much pressure on a single individual, and you've got a lot of different people, Leanne Sanderson, Kristen Edmonds, people who are going to be around who can contribute. So I don't know. I feel like they're feeling pretty good, that they're optimistic. They know there's going to be some challenges ahead. They're not sure how the formation is going to come together, but they feel good, and they've been highly competitive in training, so that probably leads to that optimism.
Yeah.
Another question from Orlando City SC Brazil, at Blog Orlando City. Do you think Kevin Alston can get the job done at left back?
And I saw the correction. He meant right back.
Right.
So for those watching who are unfamiliar, Kevin Alston came in for an injured Rafael Ramos at right back last game against Montreal, and he had the daunting task of taking on Piatti, which was not easy, and he certainly, in my opinion, got the job done against him, as you can see from the score, the final score. I think he did an admirable job against him. He's a veteran. He knows what to expect. He knows how to play in this league, and everyone has a lot of confidence in him that he can continue to get the job done as he continues to start while Ramos is recovering.
Right. So still on Facebook Live, still able to answer questions sent to us via at OS Lions. So keep them rolling in. We've got a couple more from Orlando City SC Brazil. Thank you again for these questions. Blog Orlando City, thoughts on Philadelphia Union and the Bozos of Sons of Ben?
Wait, That was a different one came up.
Oh, oops. Let's see which one we've got here. Sorry about that. I skipped down. Do you think Kaká is playing so too far forward, considering he does best when playing from behind? So Kaká's positioning has always been fluid.
Right.
In his time with Orlando City.
Well, this was a goal of theirs this year for Kaká to play far forward. It's not by mistake. It's by design, and he wants to play more far forward. He said he feels like he can be more of an asset and score more goals and create more if he's playing more far forward. So he's more comfortable with this team this year playing more forward. That's where he wants to play, and I think, judging by recent games and the games that he has come out and played in, he hasn't been in the whole season. He missed 5 games, so there is maybe a little bit of getting back into the swing of things, but so far I think he's been doing a good job up there.
I think in particular in the second half of this past game, he was extremely active, and that's a huge asset for Orlando City when that can happen. I have a question for you on top of this. We talk a lot about shape and formation, get tons of questions about it. It's very interesting from readers. But Adrian Heath has talked before about, yes, he's committed to a style, and he wants to maintain spacing on the field, but he has said that shape kind of...
It's fluid.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So, if you noticed last game, people were saying they were a 4-3-3. It looked like a 4-2-3-1. It looked like a 4-2-4 at times. At different times, they can change things up. They'll play and they'll adapt to whatever they need to. So when you say, this is a 4-3-3 or this is a 4-2-3-1, it might not necessarily look like that on the field when they're playing.
But their intention right now with Kaká, obviously, he was very active. If he can get back, they're happy with how far up he is, if he can continue to play that role. So, all right. Another question up next. Orlando City SC Brazil. We're on the same one now. Sorry about that. Thoughts on Philadelphia Union and the Bozos of Sons of Ben. Score prediction. What do you think will be the key matchup? So I guess we can explain why the first question gives some readers who context who may not know. Ben Olsen, the coach there, Philadelphia Union. I think some people took offense to his press conference earlier this week where he sort of talked. He did praise Orlando City fans. I have to make that clear, but he sort of focused a little bit on their next game against Colorado, and some people took that as a perceived slight of Orlando City. Thoughts on Philadelphia?
Listen, I saw all the trash talk that was going on between the fans of two teams and the official accounts. I think it's all in fun. I don't think he's not taking Orlando City seriously. That would be a mistake, obviously. They played really close. It was down to the 90th minute direct kick in the last game, which actually was offsides, and the referees missed the call. So it'll be another tough game. And on top of that, they're here. And Orlando City is unbeaten at home this year and into last year. I think last July they haven't lost at home, so it would be a mistake to underestimate them. But as far as score, I hate doing score predictions. I don't even
let's skip that. But let's go to the next question. What do you think the key will be to the matchup? I can roll one out there for you, in my opinion.
Sure,
separate from just the lineups and the various things, I think when Kaká is active and when he is really aggressive, both sides of the ball. He talked with you before about how important, when he talked about better defense, that he needed to play a role in it. It seemed like he did in the second half against Montreal, and so if he's playing a role and he's pushing the tempo, I think he is the captain for a reason. And I think if he is pushing, everyone else will push. So I think that's critical. What do you think?
I actually think one of our readers had it before, the play of Kevin Alston. I think his matchup, Philadelphia's front three have been really dynamic this year. Chris Pontius, former Orlando City USL player, has and what Adrian Heath called a new lease on life in Philadelphia, and it's going to be a challenge for Kevin.
All right. So next question, last one from Orlando City SC Brazil. Blog Orlando City. Who do you think will win the throne? Starks, Targon, Lannister, or Martell? So
what did you just say?
I mispronounced it.
You
Sorry.
did not watch Game of Thrones?
I am.
Oh my God, that second one was Targaryen, as in Daenerys Targaryen, and 100% her.
So obviously this question's for you. Who do you think will win the throne?
100% Targaryen.
Okay. There you go. You
I
heard
love
it
the
here.
Starks, though, but come on.
Do we have any questions?
I was just double checking that.
All right. Well, we appreciate those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live. If you have any questions, you can still hit us up there. You can still hit us up on Twitter at OSLions while Alicia is checking to see if anybody has buzzed in as we speak.
We have a comment about our title animation that I just retweeted. Can you pull that up? For future notice graphic design people.
What would they like to share with us?
Oh, I just retweeted for mine. Sorry. Gotcha. Oh my God, that title animation, glad I'm not
Well, thank you, Flying Scotsman. That's fantastic.
I don't know if y'all answered that one yet.
And I just retweeted one more.
Okay. All right, so we have one quick one from Facebook Live I'm going to grab real fast from
Travis Jordan.
Travis Jordan wants to know, happy to see Nocerino on the bench. Is that going to continue this Wednesday? Are we going to still see Nocerino on the bench as he continues to adapt to MLS?
I would assume yes, and that's never a definite. You can never be a definite with this. They're very, coy with answering lineup questions, but I would assume with the result that they just got without him in the midfield that he would be coming off the bench if anything.
All right, and then we have another Twitter question that we're going to go ahead and queue up. Donald B. Money Jr., we hadn't heard from him yet. All right, was MLS concerned about the security breach following the Orlando City Soccer Club game, and have they made suggestions to fix league-wide?
Yeah, so they were a little concerned. They weren't as concerned as some fans and other people watching were, but if whoever's watching that doesn't know, the security breach was a fan jumping onto the field and running toward Kaká, trying to get toward Kaká. It was a friendly, loving gesture, a little overzealous from the fan, but it was not mean-spirited at all. And they were concerned. The fan was arrested and handcuffed and taken off, even though Kaká went up to him and said, it's okay, don't take him, it's fine. But you have to be a little concerned with things like that because it's not always fine. It's not always just a friendly thing. There have been incidents recently. Players have been stabbed by fans. Players have been attacked by fans that rush the field after games. There have been suicide bombings at stadiums across the world. So yes, they were concerned with that, and I think it's something that the security will talk about to curb before. But we were talking too, and we were a little surprised. They said it was one of the first times they've seen something like that at Camping World Stadium, and we were a little surprised that it happened too, because it's a bit of a jump to.
It's a very steep
get
stadium wall to get down. He had to have somehow gotten down the steps or gotten to the concourse on some level just to get down, because I think they're high enough.
Yeah.
You'd have a hard time just getting through that. So I think they're being very aggressive about it. League-wide, MLS has implemented some different general security policies, including the typical NFL bag policy. You're only allowed to take in a clear bag. They're trying to do some different things.
And they search it. They search everyone's bags now.
They are mindful, and we saw with the Fill the Bowl, we had lines and lines of people out the door because they were not as ready for those security searches as they had anticipated. But I think generally wary and a little concerned, but I don't think that it's going to trigger a massive series of security changes, because they all already feel like they're in pretty good shape as it is right now. Mm-hmm. And I think also they have mentioned this has happened a lot to Kaká throughout his career. This has happened a lot, and he generally tries to diffuse the situation by greeting the fan, making sure it's safe. I guess very quickly
After
trying to
he was
assess.
Restrained, he went back up to
goes
the
back
fan
and tries to greet people. He is big on fan engagement, so he just wants to do what he can to support them. But from the security perspective, they try to cut that off as quickly as possible. You don't want to reward someone for making the effort to jump on the field. So.
Yeah, and Adrian Hayes said, we love the enthusiasm from fans. He went about it a little bit, not in the right way, but just observe the rules, go by the rules, don't try to skirt around them and do something crazy like run out onto the field.
I will say they do feel like they do a lot of fan engagement activities where if you are willing to wait in line, if you're willing to do a couple of different things, you can still have an opportunity to meet and greet players. Yeah. So even just waiting outside of the player entrance ahead of the game, there's chances to get autographs and do other things. They're not too far removed from there. So I think that MLS in general feels like we're giving people enough reasonable access, and we have security in place that they're not overly concerned with how to deal with it.
Right.
So I think that was the close of our questions. We appreciate all of them that came in on Facebook Live and via @OSLions on Twitter. You can keep sending those in. Let's look ahead to another big week, though. We've got 2 Orlando City games, Orlando Pride game, OCB obviously trying to continue to develop and get another win. But first, I guess we can just hit on the Pride quickly. They're going to play on the road against the defending NWSL champs without at least 3 players who were called up for national duty already. So they're losing Ashlyn Harris, Alex Morgan, Laura Alloway is out already because of an injury, and then is just going to go ahead and report to the Australian national team. So what are you expecting from the Pride this week? What's the challenge to build on their first road win?
I mean, the challenge is they've worked so hard coming together with the team that they have, and now they're missing some of those pieces. So to continue that momentum and that unity that they've seen on the road plugging new pieces in. And as far as goalkeeper, we're going to have Aubrey Bledsoe, the young backup goalkeeper, who's been looking really good. She's going to be in goal for Ashlyn Harris, and they're also bringing up an amateur goalkeeper who's been in town training with them on the road to back her up. So
yeah, it's going to be a great challenge, great opportunity for a lot of different players to show what they can do. It will not be an Ashlyn Harris goal save of the week.
No, maybe an Aubrey Bledsoe save of the week.
That would be awesome. All right, so next up, big pressure. Orlando City wants to build on this success. First up, Philadelphia Union, and then you turn right around and play at NYCFC on Sunday. What does Orlando City need to do to build on this momentum?
Yeah, they just need to really stay focused, keep that confidence that they built a little bit. That's what was really lacking. The confidence was lacking among the team, and it was just snowballing into something uncontrollable, and they've been able to snap out of it, and now they need to make sure that they're getting the rest that they need so that they can put in performances like Saturdays on Wednesday and again on Sunday against New York.
All right, so it's going to be a big week. You can follow @OSLions, @OSAliciaD. These are our 2 Twitter accounts where you can get all the latest Orlando City soccer news, all the latest updates about the Pride, OCB, everything you could possibly want to know about soccer in Orlando. And we are just ahead of the Copa America Centenario, so it's just going to be crazy for the next month. So thanks for joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you for your questions. Keep sending them to @OSLions all weekend, upcoming week, and follow us more on orlandosettled.com. With Alicia DelGallo, I'm Iliana Limon-Romero. Thanks for joining us.